Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're taking all that source material, the articles, the career retrospectives, and we are zeroing in on a true Hollywood anomaly, Sandra Annette Bullock.
And this is such an essential deep dive because her entire career is really a study in paradox.
Right.
You have this person who is constantly, labeled America's sweetheart, but she's operated with the focus of a CEO, a really ferocious strategic focus.
All while navigating this private life that was, at times, just unbelievably turbulent, even dangerous.
Exactly. So our mission today is to chart her whole transformation. We're going from this German-speaking child of opera all the way to a two-time Oscar nominee. We want to figure out how her work, which became so highly selective, her philanthropy and these intense privacy battles, how all of that defines her legacy.
A legacy is one of Hollywood's most influential and, for a time, highest-paid stars. And the numbers alone are just staggering. I mean, we're talking about the world's highest-paid actress in 2010, and then again in 2014. That's some serious financial leverage.
It's undeniable. And it's not just the money, it's the range. She can do these massive global comedy hits and then pivot to these high-stakes, almost isolationist dramas.
And she's got the hardware to back it up, an Academy Award, a Golden Globe.
But I think if we look past just the box office numbers, that's where you see the real strategy. Time magazine named her one of the 100 most influential people in the world back in 2010.
Wow.
And that, that speaks to a level of influence that goes way beyond just being a movie star. It's about her intentional control over her own career, her own output.
She manages her narrative.
She manages her narrative and her production slate in a way that, frankly, very few of her peers have ever achieved, especially in an industry that is always trying to box female stars into one specific role.
I totally agree. And that control, that's what we need to distill today. We've got this huge contradiction, right? You have the highly marketable, universally beloved, friendly, and direct public image.
The classic sweetheart label.
The classic sweetheart label. And that is colliding with this incredibly complex private life. A life that includes major public scandals and, as we'll get into, these terrifying and repeated security crises. So the question is, how does she build a career that was strong enough to withstand all that chaos?
Let's start right at the beginning, because her foundation is anything but conventional for an American icon.
Not at all.
Sandra Annette Bullock, born July 26, 1964 in Arlington, Virginia. But the real center of her life for more than a decade was in Europe.
That's a detail that I feel like gets glossed over so often. The sources really confirm this, this deeply international upbringing.
Oh, completely. It sets her apart from the very beginning.
Right. I mean, her mother, Helga Mathilde, she was a German opera singer.
And voice teacher.
Yeah, and her dad, John Wilson Bullock, he was an Army employee, but also a voice coach from Alabama, of all places.
And they met in Nuremberg, right, while her father was stationed there. It's just not your typical Hollywood origin story.
It sounds more like a touring artistic partnership than a typical American family.
That's a perfect way to put it. For the first 12 years of her life, she was rooted in Europe. She's living in Nuremberg, spending time in Vienna, Salzburg, all these major musical centers.
And she grew up speaking German.
She literally grew up speaking German, which is just fascinating for someone who becomes so identified with the American film industry. This isn't just a fun fact, It probably informed her entire global perspective.
And it also speaks to a very specific kind of discipline from a young age. She didn't go to a normal school. She went to a Waldorf school in Nuremberg.
Right.
And her entire artistic foundation was classical. We're talking ballet, vocal arts, singing in her mother's children's choir at the opera, even taking small parts in actual opera productions.
It's wild to think that America's sweetheart was, first on stage doing pirouettes in Europe, speaking fluent German. That's a fundamentally different artistic bedrock than, say, the typical California theater kid.
It really is. That kind of exposure to high art, to structured performance, that's a crucial layer that's sitting right beneath the surface of all those breezy comedies she became famous for later.
And when the family finally moves back to the States, her father keeps working with the Army Material Command before becoming a contractor for the Pentagon.
So he maintained those strong military and government ties. That's such an interesting counterpoint to her mother's artistic world.
It is. And then the pivot to classic Americana is almost, jarring. After that international classical start, she graduates from Washington Lee High School in 1982.
Where she was a cheerleader.
A cheerleader, exactly. And then she commits fully to the craft. earning a BFA in drama from East Carolina University in 1987.
And she was already doing lead roles in university plays, things like Peter Pan and Three Sisters.
So once that formal education was done, the real strategic move began. She knew she couldn't stay in North Carolina.
Right, you have to go to the big city.
And like so many ambitious performers, she makes that critical jump to Manhattan. And the sources are really clear about the grind that followed. This wasn't some instant path to fame.
Oh yeah, she was juggling jobs. A bartender, a cocktail waitress, a coat checker. All of it just to pay the rent while she was going on auditions.
But here's the key distinction. And I think this separates her early hustle from thousands of other hopefuls. She didn't just wait tables.
She was studying.
She was studying. She committed to taking acting classes with the legendary Sanford Meisner during this really demanding period.
And Meisner training, that's no joke. It's all about truthfulness, about instinct. So she wasn't just trying to get a job. She was building a serious, repeatable craft.
It's the first real indicator of her strategic determination.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't just waiting for a lucky break. She was using the waiting table's money to invest in top-tier training. That resilience we see later on, it was forged right there in New York.
Okay, so that initial treadmill of early roles, it's pretty rapid. Her debut is in this 1987 thriller, Hangmen. Then she moves to Off-Broadway, a play called No Time Flat. And that gets a director's attention, which leads to a part in a made-for-TV movie.
The Bionic Showdown, right? The $6 Million Man and the Bionic Woman.
That's the one. She even did a short-lived TV version of the movie Working Girl. It's that classic grind, you know, just taking roles until something finally sticks.
And the something that stuck first was Demolition Man in 1993.
Ah, yes.
It was a supporting role, sure, but it was a major sci-fi action film. The sources are clear. This was the moment she got her first real, undeniable attention.
She was up against some huge stars, Sylvester Stallone, Wesley Snipes.
And she totally held her own. She handled the action and the sci-fi stuff with this naturalness that just immediately boosted her visibility in the industry.
And that visibility set the stage for the real seismic shift, which was Speed in 1994.
Speed wasn't just a hit. It was a cultural phenomenon, an instant classic of the action genre.
She played Annie Porter alongside Keanu Reeves, the bus that can't slow down.
An iconic premise. And what's critical here is that the studio insisted she read for the film specifically to test her chemistry with Reeves.
That's a huge vote of confidence, but it's also a huge risk, right? They had to be certain that dynamic worked. The established action star and this charming, unexpected everywoman.
And she wasn't shy about how physical that test was. She recalled doing all these really physical scenes together, rolling around on the floor and stuff.
Well, the chemistry absolutely paid off.
Exponentially. Speed was a critical hit. Rotten Tomatoes called it a terrific popcorn thriller. But the commercial impact is what really cemented her career. It grossed $350 million worldwide.
$350 million in 1994, money.
Exactly. That put it in the top 5 global grossers for the entire year. It basically launched her into the echelon of bankable blockbuster stars almost overnight. That kind of velocity is so rare.
And the awards followed immediately. She won Best Actress at the Saturn Awards, which covers the genre stuff, but then she also swept the mainstream adoration.
The MTV Movie Awards.
Yeah, Best Female Performance and the very telling Most Desirable Female Award. That's a powerful combination, isn't it? You've got genre cred, critical praise, and massive youth appeal all at once.
And that instant commercial force gave her something even more valuable than awards.
Leverage.
Leverage and creative freedom. She was no longer just the girl from the action movie.
So, okay, let's unpack this. The momentum from Speed launched her immediately into 2 defining roles.
In the same year, 1995.
Right. And she makes this incredibly smart move to not get typecast as an action heroine, which is so often the trap after a massive hit like Speed.
It's a very deliberate, very strategic shift into romantic comedy with While You Were Sleeping.
Which was a huge success for her. Critics loved her in it. They said she played the part with so much skill that she made the whole formula feel fresh again.
And it was a commercial smash. Grossed $182 million globally. And crucially, it earned her first Golden Globe nomination for Best Actress. She proved, right then and there, she could open a movie outside of the action sphere.
But then, just to prove it wasn't a fluke, and that she still had that thriller credibility, she goes right back to high-stakes suspense.
With The Net, also in 1995.
Yeah, playing a computer programmer who stumbles on a conspiracy. A theme that feels, wow, incredibly prescient today.
It really does. And while the net didn't hit the same massive heights of Speed, it still made a very respectable $110 million globally.
And the critics noticed. I remember Owen Gleiberman at Entertainment Weekly specifically complimented her performance, and he even connected her to the reigning star of the time.
He compared her to Julia Roberts.
Exactly. He said her overripe smile and clear, imploring eyes are sometimes evocative of Julia Roberts.
And that comparison is key, because it signals that the industry immediately saw her as belonging to that absolute highest tier of marketable, bankable, likable actresses in Hollywood.
Yeah.
She had established her signature duality. This vulnerable charm combined with real intellectual strength in high-stakes situations.
So the success of 1995 translates directly into massive financial leverage. This is where we start to see her business strategy really sharpen up.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
We know she got a major pay jump, a reported $11 million for the 1997 sequel, Speed 2, Cruise Control.
$11 million in 1997, that is elite territory.
It put her in the absolute top tier of Hollywood earners. That figure was. It was almost unheard of for a female star at that time. It showed her box office pull, commanded parity with her top male peers.
But the sources reveal the real strategy behind taking that huge paycheck, don't they?
They do. And this is where it gets really interesting, because accepting that role seems like a huge reputational risk in hindsight. How did she recover so quickly from what was, a massive flop?
Because the risk was calculated.
Exactly. She accepted Speed 2 solely for the financial backing it gave her for her passion project, the 1998 drama Hope Floats.
So she was playing the long game.
She was using a guaranteed financial payout on a sequel she probably knew was weak to guarantee creative control over a movie she truly believed in. It's an early, decisive move that shows her business acumen.
Which is smart because Speed 2 was, let's be honest, it was a disaster. Critically and commercially, she even publicly disparaged it later on.
But the lesson there is clear. Prioritize the long-term goal of creative control over a short-term critical hit. And that strategic flexibility really defines this entire period for her.
She refused to let the sequel's failure define her. She bounced right back.
Immediately, with strong roles in really diverse films. In 1996, she took on a serious legal drama, A Time to Kill, based on the John Grisham novel.
Right, and she's starring alongside huge names like Samuel L. Jackson and Matthew McConaughey. That film was a major cultural moment.
And then in 1988, we see the payout for the Speed 2 gamble, Hope Floats, the first film she produced with her own company, Fortis Films.
She starred as a housewife whose life just publicly shatters. And critics noticed her strength in that kind of role. James Bertinelli pointed out her undisputed strength in a blend of light drama and comedy.
She was solidifying her place in that nuanced space. But 1998 wasn't all a success, was it?
No, it also brought the flop of Practical Magic.
With Nicole Kidman.
Yeah, even with both of their star power, the sources confirm it just didn't connect with audiences. It flopped, despite opening at #1.
It just goes to show, star power isn't a silver bullet, especially in that light fantasy genre, which can be so tricky.
But the commercial consistency she showed quickly overshadowed that one stumble. The real consistency came from her rise as a comedic icon right around the turn of the millennium.
Miss Congeniality in 2000. That was a huge global success. $212 million. It just cemented her ability to lead a comedy that was both self-deprecating and incredibly charming.
And it earned her a second Golden Globe nomination.
And then she follows that up by strategically pairing with Hugh Grant for 2 weeks' notice in 2002.
A perfect pairing. Critics loved them together.
They did. They found their opposing comedic energies created this perfect balance. And that film made a staggering $199 million globally. At this point, she's not just bankable, she is a guarantor of enormous box office returns in the rom-com genre.
No, I want to circle back to the infrastructure that gave her all this control, Fortis Films, because her influence really expands behind the camera during this period.
Massively. She was an executive producer on the ABC sitcom George Lopez from 2002 to 2007.
And Fortis Films wasn't just some vanity project, was it?
Not at all. It was her control center.
Yeah.
Headquartered in Austin and West Hollywood, it produced Miss Congeniality and 2 weeks' notice. That means she owned a piece of her biggest financial hits.
Which significantly boosts her wealth and her creative control.
And it was a family operation. Her father, John Bullock, was the CEO. Her sister, Gazine Bullock Prado, was the former president. She was driving her career from the executive seat, shielded by family who she could trust to prioritize her interests.
And her work on George Lopez had real impact. She didn't just put her name on it.
No, she actively appeared on the show multiple times as Accident Amy, But her producer role was what mattered. She received the Raul Julia Award for Excellence for helping expand career openings for Hispanic talent in entertainment, largely because of her work on that show.
So she was using her production power to actively foster diversity. That's moving beyond just being an actor and into being an influential industry leader.
And this whole era kind of concludes with her leveraging all that commercial fame for serious dramatic work. The prime example being the 2004 ensemble drama Crash,
Which went on to win the Academy Award for Best Picture.
She played the district attorney's wife, a really complex, kind of unsympathetic character, and her performance was suggested by some critics as the best of her career up to that point.
And the whole cast, including her, got the Screen Actors Guild Award. It really shows her desire to be part of these culturally significant prestige projects, even if she wasn't the headliner.
Of course, she also took that massive $17.5 million salary from Miss Congeniality, too.
Right. Which, was critically panned. Roger Ebert called it doubly unnecessary. But it further confirmed her market value.
The financial reward clearly outweighed the critical ambition in that case. And then you get that fascinating reunion with Keanu Reeves in the 2006 drama The Lake House.
Which is such an odd film structurally because their characters are separated for almost the entire movie.
And they were only on set together for 2 weeks. But despite that, the film was a financial success. It proved the enduring power of their on-screen pairing. She just kept demonstrating this singular commercial drawing power, no matter the genre or the reviews.
Okay, so this next 7-year window from about 2008 to 2014, this is where she solidifies her position as an undeniable Hollywood powerhouse. She hits the highest highs of both critical acclaim and commercial success.
Really starts with these massive commercial hits in the rom-com space. The Proposal in 2009 with Ryan Reynolds, that was a behemoth.
$317 million worldwide. It was her 4th most successful picture to date and got her a 3rd Golden Globe nomination.
And then later, in 2013, you get The Heat with Melissa McCarthy, another huge success, grossing $230 million. And that proved she could pivot again, this time into an R-rated buddy comedy, and still command the box office.
But the critical triumph that defined this entire era and maybe her whole public persona forever was The Blind Side in 2009.
Her performance as Leanne Twohy, fierce, devout. It led to her winning the Academy Award for Best Actress.
And the sources show she was really reluctant to even take that role, right?
Deeply reluctant. She turned it down 3 times because she was uncomfortable portraying such a devout Christian figure. The fact that she overcame that and embraced it, it speaks volumes about her commitment.
And the triumph was just comprehensive. The film grossed over $309 million. It was the first film in history to pass the $200 million mark, with only one top-billed female star.
That is a truly historic, almost singular box office achievement. It fundamentally altered the narrative about the commercial viability of films led by actresses.
And she swept everything. The Oscar, the Golden Globe, the SAG Award, the Critics' Choice. It was just pure, unadulterated triumph.
But here's where it gets really interesting.
The Razzie-Oscar paradox.
The Razzie-Oscar paradox. This is a story that still baffles people who don't follow the industry that closely.
It's a truly one-of-a-kind moment in Hollywood history. It captures her career duality perfectly. The night before she walks on stage to get the Oscar for The Blind Side,
She wins the Razzie Award for Worst Actress.
for her performance in the comedy All About Steve, where she played this eccentric crossword puzzle writer.
She became the only actor in history to achieve this, winning the highest award and the lowest award for work released in the same year.
And what's so telling is how she handled it.
Oh, it was brilliant. She actually showed up at the Razzies,
Wheeling in a wagon full of DVDs of the movie.
insisting that the voters needed to watch it again to determine if her performance was truly the worst. It was a masterclass in self-deprecation and brand management.
Absolutely. She completely diffused the whole thing with humor and grace. Instead of hiding from a flop, she embraced it. She turned this potential embarrassment into an incredible story of humility and resilience.
And by 2010, after all this, the industry recognized her dominance was absolute. Entertainment Weekly said she was courted for virtually every female starring role. Ben Affleck even confirmed it, saying for every script, execs were like, we're going after Sandra Bullock for the woman.
But she didn't chase every offer. The sources say that after her major personal upheaval around that time, she chose to quietly put acting on hold.
To focus on her personal life, on the new reality of being a single mother. And when she came back, she was different. She said, I've become a better fighter for my work. I didn't have the guts to do that before.
So this strategic selection process, it wasn't just about quality anymore. It was about protecting her time and maximizing her financial leverage.
And that's precisely why she was named the world's highest paid actress in 2010 and again in 2014. If you only take one or two roles every few years, the demand just drives the price up dramatically. It puts you in a position of complete control.
And the absolute high point of this new hyper-selective strategy has to be the 2013 sci-fi thriller Gravity.
A monumental film, a huge technical and performance challenge. When it premiered at the Venice Film Festival, it was hailed as a zero-gravity masterpiece, universal critical acclaim, and immediate standing ovation.
People were calling it the most realistic and beautifully choreographed film ever set in space.
The commercial impact was phenomenal, $716 million worldwide. It became her second most successful film. But it was her performance as Dr. Ryan Stone that got all the praise.
Largely alone in that suit for most of the film, critics were calling it the best of her career.
The recognition was fierce. She earned her second round of nominations for the Oscar, Golden Globe, BAFTA, all of it. Variety praised her for navigating that intense isolation, noting she inhabits the role with grave dignity. This era truly defined her as an actor who could deliver both mass appeal and deep prestige, completely on her own terms.
So as we move into the last decade or so, we see this strategy of hyper-selective output just intensify, and yet the impact only seems to grow.
She's choosing her moments so carefully, and it's allowing her to break some massive records.
We have to start with her highest-grossing film to date, which is Minions from 2015.
Right. She voiced the villain, Scarlet Overkill, and that animated film grossed over $1.1 billion worldwide.
It's kind of remarkable that her biggest financial hit is an animated voice role.
But it's pure business strategy, isn't it? It's a massive check, it's a global success, and it requires minimal face time or physical performance. It's another layer of protection for her privacy.
Then you have the all-female ensemble heist film Ocean's 8 in 2018.
Where she played Debbie Ocean, Danny Ocean's sister. It leveraged her star power perfectly, had the best debut for the entire Ocean's franchise, and made $297 million globally. She was at a stage where she was demanding and getting roles that were tailor-made for A-list, highly capable women.
And her move into streaming was just as powerful. That was a really calculated shift.
Bird Box, in 2018 on Netflix, a post-apocalyptic horror film. It became the most watched film on the platform within 28 days of its release, a record that held for years.
It just confirmed that her star power translates perfectly to the on-demand market. She can guarantee massive viewership without a traditional box office.
And that consistency has continued right into the 2020s, most recently, The Lost City in 2022 with Channing Tatum.
Another hit, $190 million globally, which leads to that remarkable statistic from Forbes.
That she's the first actress to have $100 million earners in live-action star vehicles over 4 different decades, the 90s, 2000s, 2010s, and 2020s.
That is the ultimate benchmark of strategic longevity and commercial acumen.
And all of that longevity is underpinned by the business infrastructure she built, by Fortis Films. It was her personal control center, producing those key films, allowing her to control the final cut, hire diverse talent,
and manage the financial risk and reward. And her entrepreneurial spirit went beyond Hollywood entirely. She invested heavily in hospitality in Austin, Texas.
Best Bistro, which she ran for almost a decade, and Walton's Fancy and Staple, which is this fascinating concept, a bakery, an upscale restaurant, a floral shop, and an event planner all in one.
It shows this deep, diversified entrepreneurial streak. She isn't solely reliant on her acting income, which just further enables her selective approach to film roles.
And then there's the final massive pillar of her persona, her philanthropy, specifically her incredible sustained dedication to the American Red Cross.
This isn't just a celebrity throwing some money at a cause once. The scale and frequency of her disaster relief donations are just staggering.
Her commitment is almost unprecedented among Hollywood stars. The sources confirm she's donated $1 million to the American Red Cross publicly at least 5 times.
Often without any major fanfare.
Let's list them, because the consistency is what's so important. $1 million to the Liberty Disaster Relief Fund after 9/11. $1 million after the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. $1 million after the 2010 Haiti earthquake.
$1 million after the 2011 Chuku earthquake and tsunami in Japan.
And another $1 million for Hurricane Harvey relief in Texas in 2017. That is nearly a decade of consistent, massive, 7-figure support for disaster relief.
And strategically, this serves 2 purposes. First, it's genuine humanitarianism, but second, It directs the public narrative. Her financial power is being used to highlight causes far outside of Hollywood drama.
It ensures that when the media discusses her wealth, it is immediately balanced by her profound commitment to public service. It reinforces that sweetheart image with tangible, selfless action.
And she's gotten recognized for it. She was inducted into the Warren Easton Hall of Fame in New Orleans for her work helping the high school after Hurricane Katrina.
And she won the Favorite Humanitarian Award at the People's Choice Awards for that same work. She used her platform to directly aid a devastated community. And on a later note, she designed that space-themed Paddington Bear statue.
The Gravity Bear.
The Gravity Bear, exactly. A clever nod to her film, auctioned off for charity. It's another small example of how she expertly blends her artistic persona with her commitment to causes.
So we've established this extraordinary level of control, of business acumen, and public influence she wields. But now we have to address the other side of the paradox. The chaos she fought against in private.
The sources confirm she was officially dubbed America's sweetheart because her public persona was so consistently friendly and direct and so unpretentious.
And the industry reinforced it. People's Woman of the Year in 2010, Most Beautiful Woman in 2015. Entertainment Weekly called her the most powerful actress in Hollywood. The public adored her. They believed in the image.
Yet behind that perfect exterior, her personal life was fraught. Particularly her relationships, and critically, her personal safety. This juxtaposition is the defining feature of her later career.
Before her marriage, she had several high-profile relationships, but they were relatively contained by the press. She was engaged to Tate Donovan, dated Matthew McConaughey, Ryan Gosling.
But the relationship that completely exploded in the media was her marriage to Jesse James, whom she married in 2005. For a time, they seemed like a solid family unit. They even won full legal custody of his daughter from a previous marriage in 2009.
Then came 2010, the scandal. She is literally at the apex of her career, fresh off winning the Oscar.
And multiple women come forward claiming to have had affairs with James. The timing was just brutal. Bullock immediately canceled all her European promotional appearances for The Blind Side.
The media frenzy was immense. James issued a public apology, taking all the blame, even checked into a rehab facility.
But it was irreparable. Bullock filed for divorce in Austin, and it was finalized in June of 2010, citing conflict of personalities. But what makes the timing so poignant is what was happening with the adoption of her son.
Wait, the adoption process had started before the scandal broke?
That's right. That drastically changes the narrative. She and James had begun the process 4 months before the split. Her son, who was born in January 2010, actually began living with them right before the Oscar ceremony in March.
That timing is incredible. She had to pivot instantly, continuing the adoption as a single parent in the middle of one of the most explosive celebrity infidelity scandals of the decade.
It shows remarkable strength and focus. She later announced the adoption of a second child, a daughter, in December 2015, really solidifying her chosen role as a single mother.
And her most recent personal challenge, her long-term partner, the photographer Brian Randall. They were together from mid-2015 until his tragic death from ALS in August of 2023.
And she maintained such fierce privacy around his illness. It just underscores her commitment to protecting her family during moments of acute vulnerability.
But beyond the challenges in her relationships, the sources reveal these persistent and absolutely terrifying security issues.
These are severe, repeated challenges to her personal safety that run completely counter to her public image of carefree charm.
They really highlight the extreme toll of fame and why she desired privacy so much. Starting in 2002, she was stalked across several states by a man named Thomas James Weldon.
And this wasn't a one-time thing. She had to get multiple restraining orders against him, including one after he was released from a mental institution. It was sustained systemic harassment.
Then in 2007, an obsessed fan named Marcia Diana Valentine was found outside her home. When Jesse James confronted her, she tried to run him over with her car.
She was convicted of stalking and sentenced to 3 years probation. But this isn't just harassment. This is attempted violence directed at her household.
The most disturbing incident, though, was in June 2014. She was riding that massive wave of success from Gravity.
Joshua James Corbett broke into her Los Angeles home. Bullock was forced to lock herself in a room, barricade the door, and call 911. Her chilling 15-minute 911 call, which was later released, revealed the absolute terror she experienced as she heard him searching her home.
He was later sentenced, but the incident ended tragically when police tried to arrest him for missing a court date in 2018. Corbett committed suicide during a SWAT standoff.
These sustained, violent, and persistent security breaches underscore the extreme reality of trying to maintain a normal life under the weight of global fame. The privacy she fights so hard for isn't a luxury, it's a necessity for her physical safety.
And let's not forget the other life-threatening things she survived. The private jet crash in 2000, the head-on collision with a drunk driver in 2008. She has truly lived a life constantly navigating unexpected high-stakes danger.
So what does this all mean?
That's the question. When we look back at all of this, we see a star who didn't just survive Hollywood. She mastered it. She created an infrastructure of control, of resilience, and strategic isolation.
It means we have to recognize this rare, almost unbelievable duality that defines her career. And it's perfectly embodied in that one year, 2009. The simultaneous highest praise, the Oscar, and the lowest scorn, the Razzie.
By navigating both with humor and strength, she proved she could not only withstand chaos, but transform it into part of her legendary narrative. No other actor has done that.
It also means recognizing her incredible financial power. That ability to command massive box office success across wildly different genres over 4 distinct decades.
Action, comedy, prestige drama, technical sci-fi. She's a true genre chameleon, and that versatility cemented her as one of the highest-paid stars in history.
And most powerfully, there's that fierce commitment to her privacy and her philanthropy, contrasted with the intense media exposure of her personal crises. She actively used Fortis Films, her selective output, and her massive charitable donations to define her own narrative.
So the learner's takeaway here is that she is not America's sweetheart by accident. She's a highly strategic businesswoman. Her success is the result of actively choosing limited, high-impact work, demanding unprecedented compensation, and building a corporate structure that managed risk and maximized both creative freedom and personal privacy.
It's a masterclass in strategic longevity. Which brings me to a final question for you to consider, connecting that private chaos to her professional choices.
Go on.
Given her history with persistent, severe security breaches and stalking incidents that forced her to lock herself in a room and call 911 to survive, how might those sustained, terrifying real-life threats have influenced her later creative choices?
That's a fascinating thought.
Think specifically about the recurring theme of isolation and intense survival in her thriller roles. The net, premonition, and especially the visceral loneliness and vulnerability of being stranded entirely alone in space and gravity. Or her isolated character in Bird Box. Is there a direct psychological connection between the chaos she experienced off-screen and the high-stakes, isolationist, survival-focused film she chose to make? Something for you to mull over as you view her catalog.